way you minimize the change is, remember, we have a before the change, we have during the change, and we have after the change. So we're trying to minimize that dip in different phases. Before the change, and we're really concerned with productivity, morale, and quality, those type of issues. And so to minimize that change, I put together some words. And the first one is history of commitment. So we can do something today for a change that will take place 5 years from today. And here's how that works. If for 5 years I treated you like family and we're going through a change, are you more likely to help me out or less likely to help me out? And of course you're more likely, right? And if for 5 years I treat you like dirt and it comes time for change, then you're less likely to help me. So history of commitment from me to you and from each of us is directly related to how well we build that momentum to go through that dip. Okay? Planning and leadership. Planning and leadership. That's an important part of change, right? So if we plan it out real well and there's a lot of leadership, we build momentum to go through that dip. And communication. Communication is another aspect of that. If we communicate well for years before the change and we're communicating about the change, then we're more likely to build a natural momentum. Okay, now there's different things we can do during the change. This has to happen before the change. We can't build a history of commitment during the change. Okay, we can't have planning and leadership during the change. We have leadership, but we can't have a lot of planning. It has to happen before the change. Okay, now we're in the middle of the change. And if I had a good reason for the change, a valid reason, is that we got to go through this or we're going to lose our job. Right? So that's good reason. Does that make sense? So valid reason. Now we got to communicate that good reason. All right, team acknowledgement. Guys, we were doing things this way. Now we got to do things this way. It's not because of you. It's because our competition has changed the rules. If we don't go by those rules, then we're not going to have a job. So it's a good reason, and I didn't blame you. Right? So now we take that a step further is we celebrate. We say, let's celebrate the end of what we had. We had a good run. Let's go out and let's get ready for the next. And we're right in the middle. We need some motivation, right? So let's go out and let's do this together. Let's do this as a team. Okay, reassignment. Now, first thing you are is worried about whether you're going to be here or not. So if I tell you that your new role is as an IT manager, we're going to move to PeopleSoft. Okay, you got to learn PeopleSoft. We'll take you all classes and everything else, and you just got to learn it because we're gonna have to implement this for the HR, and this is the new game, and that's what we got to do, right? So now you're reassigned. You know what your assignment is, and you know you're not going to lose your job. I've heard, I read a couple of things where maybe the first thing you do when you're going through a change is promise everybody their job's not going to change for say a new company takes over an old company. First thing you want to do is make sure everybody knows they're not going to lose their job right off. Because if the rumor mill gets started, then everybody's going to feel like they're going to lose their job. And so if you... Huh? Right off. Well, the point is that the point is that we'll work with you. We'll find ways you fit in, or we'll find something else for you, and we'll help you get there. You know, if you can promise some of that, you just yeah. Well, the point was that you can't lie, so you can't be on that front end conversation. The point is you can't make it a lie. You have to bite the bullet and actually make it happen. In some cases, there's people you know aren't going to leave, and they got to know they're not going to leave. In some cases, you know they're going to leave, but so you got to make it. You got to. There's a chemistry in a team. Okay, so if you build a team over time, and that chemistry is about to change, what happens to those people in that team directly affects those other people who are going to stay behind. And so if they see you treating their people that they love poorly, they're going to hate you. Does that make sense? And so you have to treat them fairly, even if they're going to be gone, because the people who are going to stay behind still have that chemistry. And I've seen that happen before. I've seen that happen on a very personal basis. I grew up in Holiday Inns. My mom and dad were both Holiday Inn innkeepers. My dad was a Holiday Inn innkeeper, and he died when I was about 13. Right? So the person that owned the chain came to my mother. She was his assistant, right, and just made her the Holiday Inn innkeeper. So it made it helped our family to survive. You see, I mean, I'm here because my mother had that opportunity. So this was before a lot of women had that opportunity. Okay, so that's where I grew up. When I graduated with my master's, the gentleman that owned it was getting sick, owned the chain, so he left. He sold the chain. Next group that came in had a different management philosophy. And so the first thing they did was made it hard on the women who were part of this chain. And so I saw that firsthand. Now, the Holiday Inns we were at was kind of like a family. I mean, I can go back. I used to go home with the person who was in charge of housekeeping, for example, and eat country home-cooked meals and things like that. So I knew all the people. Grew up kind of with the sets of people who worked there. And when the chemistry changed, it changed the whole chemistry of the place. So the Holiday Inn went through a process where it just basically dissolved, and it became another inn, and the people who ran it had to find other jobs. The people who owned it went bankrupt because they changed the chemistry, and they changed the chemistry in negative ways, and it affected the family. Does that make sense? So, and you mentioned earlier about walking into a small company where people have been there for 30 years, and their husbands and wives and family and everybody grew up there. You can't just go in and change the chemistry, right? You just don't go in and change the culture. Culture is the hardest thing to change. So you can't go in and fire key people because, one reason. I'll give you one reason. Configuration management. Okay, configuration management is how that operation flows, how those critical things fit together. And configuration management is the form, fit, or function of the operations, what's going on in the operations, and every piece of the operation. Some of that is not on paper. Some of that's only in the heads of the people. And so if you remove somebody, you start and do it in a negative way, a hateful way, then what happens is you create a configuration management problem on the least of what you do, because there's things in those people's heads that they take with them. They'll never tell you.